Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonja Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
Good morning and welcome to the debate show. I am joined with Jack Hirsch and James Martin. Good morning, gentlemen. How are you guys?
I can give you an original good morning, Sonja. Good morning.
Yes. Listen, I've got I'm trying to get my camera here together, but this is the debate show. Of course, we do this every Saturday, 8 a.m. with the guys. Series of questions that are posed, and we just have a really good time talking about the sports today, the debates that go down with those sports, and everything. So sit back, relax, and join us. Hope everybody got their coffee, and we can get ready to have some good old-fashioned fun this morning for the next hour. So got a series of questions here that Jack always comes up with. Sometimes, sometimes I chime in on these, but I don't know, Jack, maybe you don't want to take credit for these at all, huh?
It doesn't matter. They become outdated. If I win the argument, I like to take credit for it. If I lose the argument, then I don't.
Of course. I mean, of course. What else would we expect, right, Jack? That's just how it is. No one wants to take the credit in case, it doesn't go quite your way. Everybody, make sure you download the Roku app so that you too can be in the know when we are live. We got sports 24/7 without the cost of cable. And just a big thing we do here. Now, the first question we're going to come up with, guys, for today is who will win tonight's game between the Knicks and the Pacers? Of course, that's been a back and forth game. Some people came in with their ideas already kind of set up that, hey, there's no way this team or that team will not get to where they are. It's going to be a sweep, et cetera, et cetera. But in my words, the Knicks have refused to lay down, guys. So that's the first question that we'll start out with here. Who will win the series tonight?
Well, I don't know. Can you say attitude? They refuse to lay down. They're down 3-2. I mean, I wouldn't be getting overly excited saying, oh, what heart the Knicks is showing. I mean, they didn't close out game one, which is an utter disaster, which if they lose the series, those games come back to haunt you. We said that in earlier shows. It's the early games in the series where you let a game get away. That's the one that comes back to bite you. But we all tend to focus on the final game. And look, Indiana has to be favored tonight down their home court. I mean, if you're looking at it unemotionally, Indiana's going to be up for this game as well. It's as if it's a seventh game to them, because if they lose, they go back to Madison Square Garden. Of course, they can win at the Garden like they've won the first two games, but they lose their advantage if they go back to Madison Square Garden. So it's advisable they close it out tonight, because if the Knicks get to a seventh game, I mean, they're going to be psyched to the hilt with their fan base, because they're going to see the finish line. We could actually get there first. And with that said, I think the Knicks are going to win tonight's game. I think Indiana is going to come out firing. They're going to get off to a decent start. But I think the Knicks will persevere in this game. And I think the Knicks will win only for the reason because I think they're a slightly more talented team. I think the personnel is just a little bit better than the Pacer personnel. But this is going to be a different Pacer team from Game 5. And I hope the Knicks are smart enough to realize in their coaching strategy. And, Halliburton's going to try to go off in this game. They're going to set up plays for him. He's going to do everything in his power to have a big, big game. So I hope they really focus on him. And if I'm Tom Thibodeau, I mean, I would make a bold move. I mean, I would put Landry Shamet on him, just to guard him, especially the early going, and this way it would help keep, Brunson out of a little foul trouble and so on. But it's going to be a terrific game tonight. I think it's going to be an absolute barn burner in which the Knicks are going to prevail like something like 129, 127, a high scoring wild game. But with that said, I picked the Pacers in 7 games. And as much as I hate to say it, I could see the Knicks winning tonight and then the Pacers going back to the Garden and winning a game 7 there. Because as we've seen this playoff, guys, teams can win on the road in the modern NBA, and they do.
Yeah, of course, the Knicks have a really good record on the road. I think they're 6-2 in the postseason for their games. J-Train, do you agree with that, or do you have an adverse opinion?
Definitely an adverse opinion. I just as we talked last night, I mentioned numbers. I just don't see teams that go up 3-1. It's rare that you see a team lose the series in a 7-game series. 4.4%. That number is really drastic. Now, Jack, what he said feeds into that, is that Indiana will win in 7, but that's taking way too much of a chance to lose the series, because if the Knicks, if they win tonight, they have momentum going into the next game and they go home. And I could see them winning the series, but I just don't see that. I think the Knicks had a really good game the other night, and they were able to shut down Halliburton. But you can only hold a really good player down for so long. I don't think that they have. I think the plan that Tom Thibodeau has in playing those players way too long, it hit a wall. They just come off of a series playing a very tough Boston team, and they had a tough series against even though they won that series, but they had a tough series against Detroit as well. I just think that this team moves too fast. The Pacers, like you mentioned a couple days ago, Sonja, that with the pace punch, that's just literally who they are. I'm pulling for the Knicks. To be honest, believe it or not, I'm pulling for the Knicks, especially because it was Max team. But realistically, I just looking at everything here. I just don't see them going into their home field, losing home field advantage with this game to close it out, so that they go face a bit more, even more formidable team in OKC. I just to try to get that taste. I think Halliburton has the taste of that blood, or getting to the finals is there. They just, especially, I know Jack doesn't like this, but in the beginning of the series, the guy put a choke sign. They want it. I think they want it more. I think they want the game more. They lost that last game, but 4-2 it happened. And I just think that they're going to go home tonight, and close this series out.
Yeah, good morning to you, Brent, of course. The odds are looking at the Pacers being favored to win at home and close out the series. Tip off tonight, 8:00. Sometimes teams, for some reason or another, take that risk of bringing it home so that they could try to close out with their home crowd and get all that camaraderie. Good morning, Richard. I'm kind of torn on this one. I know what the stats say, and I know how difficult it is to come back from 3-1 at a minimum. Let's just put it like that. I know what that's like. But then, and I've always told Jack, in certain situations, it feels like it's delaying the inevitable. But then when you look at what the Knicks have done, especially in Game 5, it just to me looked like a Knicks team that may have been reignited. Even if for a small flicker of a flame, I feel like the Pacers just gave them just a little bit of spark left. Like, hey guys, we still have a chance at this. And you know how New Yorkers are as a whole. Not that all the players are from New York, but the culture there is that they just basically are resilient. They are strong, and they are always the ones to try to prove everybody else wrong. So with that being said, even though the 3-1 deficit is always one of those things that's out there, and now basically, what is it, 3-2 games? I mean, they basically came back. It's very difficult to win 3 in a row. I think that New York will still win out because I feel like they will try to prove that stat incorrect, if for all purposes, just for them. I mean, now getting to the next round is something different, but getting past the Pacers, if they can continue to isolate Halliburton and keep him where he needs to be, that's going to be their key in advancing.
Well, no one has to come back from 3-1 anymore. It's 3-2, and that isn't even the mindset of the Knicks and the Pacers. That the Knicks team, they're not thinking, well, we have to win the next 2 games. They're thinking, if we win this game in Indiana, we're going back to Madison Square Garden. We're going back to Madison Square Garden, and it's all even at that point, and we'll have the advantage of that's their mindset. And the Pacers' mindset is, we better wrap things up at home, because if we lose this game and go back to Madison Square Garden, we could actually lose this series. So I think both teams are solely focused on this game. It's like a 1-game series now, even though for the Knicks in reality it's a 2-game series. So it's not a mindset coming right from 3-1. And James mentions momentum. Momentum's as good as your last jump shot. Come on. I mean, I don't think there's any real thing with momentum going on right now. I mean, the Pacers were up 2-0, a 20-point lead in game 3. I mean, what's with the momentum going on? I mean, it should have been over in that sense. But and then if you want to think backwards with the Knicks losing the first game, what would have been the momentum and the mindset if the Knicks had won the first game the way they should have? They'd be up 3-2, and their mindset for game 6 would be, well, even if we lose, we got game 7 at the Garden. It would have been a whole different mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I look at, y'all don't always like to hear it, but sometimes stats are right. They really are. I mean, the home court advantage that the Pacers have at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, they're 5-2 there, guys. They're 5-2 at home in the playoffs, so they're very similar to what the Knicks are on the road, and they are motivated to close out in front of their, their home crowd, because if not, game 7 literally is it. Like how the Knicks are feeling tonight is how both teams will feel if this game goes down to a game 7. No team wants to face that, because the Knicks have not been, like I told you guys, the Knicks have not been a team that has been like laying down. Like, they literally have been standing in the gap. They've been making the big plays. They've been overcoming the deficits and coming back. So the Pacers are definitely trying to make that move and finish it out. You got Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton that have, of course, Halliburton was pretty quiet game 6. I told you guys that Knicks defense really isolated him, kept him cool pretty much the entire night. But he's had breakout plays this entire season, especially in the postseason, where we've seen him like basically be quiet, and all of a sudden it's like, boom, here he is, he's back. He orchestrates that offense in a way that is really difficult to kind of keep up with, as far as, like I said, the pace. Siakam, on the other hand, he's been a consistent scorer for that team. So he's the second part of that. That's an A and B of basically keeping the Pacers where they need to be. But they're both players are very aggressive, and they're going to play really, really hard. This is going to be an even tougher battle tonight for the Knicks than the other games, in my opinion, because this is a do or die battle right here, right now. The Pacers have this strong ability to bounce back after a loss. They're 10-3 at home after a loss each throughout the regular season, and they're 3-0 in the playoffs at that run. And then you think about it, the Knicks have had to overcome a lot when they play the Celtics. They had a lot of fatigue because Tom Thibodeau is not resting these vets like we said.
He has been rested. He's been using his bench the last couple of games more than Rick Carlisle. Let's get off it. Let's not label Thibodeau at this point.
He's not though. But the point is, it's too little, too late, Jack. These guys are now tired and they've been battling injuries. Jalen Brunson has been that standout person for that entire team, and he's carrying the team by himself.
And he put James Hart on the. He put Hart on the bench.
Yes,
that was okay. It didn't do great. I mean, I think that game when they went up 3-1, Hart was on the bench, coming off the bench. He didn't do too well, and so I just think that again, I hear you mention it's 3-2 now, but going from the stat, at one point it was 3-1, and the stats don't lie. Again, they might fall in that 4.4% to win this series out, but typically in a series of 7, 4.4%.
I think the Pacers are going to win. I think the Pacers are going to win the series when all is said and done, if not tonight in Game 7. But if you're a basketball fan, you should want the Knicks to win this series if you're an objective fan, because a Knicks Thunder series is going to be exciting. Even though the Thunder will be favored, it could go either way. The Knicks can beat the Thunder. If the Thunder play the Pacers, the Thunder are going to beat them in 4 games, 5 games the most. It's not going to be a contest.
Oh wow!
I disagree with that.
Yeah.
We can disagree,
but the Pacers are probably, as a matter of fact, the Pacers are probably more suited to play run and gun with a defensive team like the OKC Thunder. I just think that the Knicks, their game is suited to get stopped because they play half-court offense. A defense is better to stop a team like that versus a high-paced team like the Pacers. So that might be a little more difficult to really stop. I just have to respectfully disagree with that.
Well, I hope we don't find out what would ever happen in the Thunder Pacers series. So I hope we don't get to that point. But if we do, we'll see who'll be proven right.
I mean, nobody really I want the Knicks to win. I mean, I'm always favored with the East Coast teams, unless it's when LeBron was with the Miami Heat. I didn't want them to win. It's just a player position that I had with that game. But I mean, I want the Knicks to win because I feel like they're just really deserve it. I wanted to see that matchup, but I have to agree with J Train here. The Pacers are just that team on both sides of the ball that are ready to face this Thunder team. This Thunder team has literally played lights out, no pun intended, like a real thunderstorm. And it's really hard to keep up with that tempo. I feel like if the Knicks were to advance against the Pacers and perhaps go to the next round, I don't think they could. They definitely wouldn't go down to Game 6. It wouldn't be a 6-game matchup with them. I think they may win 1, maybe 2, but that would be they would be literally frozen out of that series. That's just my opinion because they're tired. That team has played really hard, and I'm not talking about the veteran thing, Jack. I'm talking about overall. We've seen that team have to come back insurmountable deficits, double-digit deficits sometimes. I mean, they've played against a Celtics team that Jason Tatum ended up going down. Of course, Chris Porzingis was sick, but even the Celtics were fighting them really tooth and nail throughout that series. And it's the end of the series. Everybody, I'm sure, is tired.
Celtics are fighting them tooth and nail in that Game 6 against the Knicks. They were really fighting them tooth and nail there, Sonja.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I just don't see. I'm gonna put it to you like this: a Knicks versus Thunder series would be more interesting to me and probably some other fans. I don't know.
It would be better for basketball because if the Thunder won, it would be their first championship in franchise history, and if the Knicks won, it would be off the charts. So it would be great. And Indiana's never won an NBA title. Between them and the Thunder, that doesn't have the national buzz, I think, that the Knicks Thunder series would have. But let's see. I think the Knicks are going to he got to win tonight. And the exhaustion part of maybe coming back, like James is saying, you're saying Sonja might hit him on the game 7. I picked the Pacers in game 7 going in, and I'll kind of stick to that.
Yeah, good morning, Little Holmes. I hope you're doing well. I mean, it's literally a toss-up. That's a really good question, Jack, because that question literally could be answered either way. Let's move on to our second question here. It's also NBA related. Let me stick to current news, and then we'll flip back to this other NBA question that we have. Is Anthony Edwards overrated? Of course, he's home right now licking his wounds, declawed and deferred by the Thunder, who have electrocuted him as the Minnesota Timberwolves. Had some personal stuff going on off court that was not so good this season. You guys know how I always talk about sometimes your personal can affect your professional. And I don't know if that's what happened in this situation, because that hype is still going on with that situation, him off court. Or is this a situation that he's just overrated as a whole? I mean, he has offensively struggled. We saw him not go for some of these jumpers that he's known to go for in these postseasons. Or is it the fact that he just, played a better team and they finally, got the lead up on him?
Yeah, Anthony Edwards is overrated, even though I like him a lot. I think he's a good team player. He gives us all on the court. His off the court stuff, I don't even want to comment on. I'm focusing on him as a basketball player. He doesn't seem to be a diva. He doesn't seem to act like he's entitled. He seems to try to be a leader. And the Timberwolves have had success with Anthony Edwards. They've went to the Western Finals twice in the last 2 years. They went to the finals. They've been in the Final Four 2 years in a row. I mean, if this were college, we'd look at it a little different. Oh, the Final Four. So, but he's not this, superstar they're making him out to be. He's not in the, we talk about him like Jokic. We talk about him like Giannis, like he's that type of caliber player. We talk about him like he's Jason Tatum. He's not quite that caliber player. He might be it in time. He's got upside. He's got potential, but he hasn't quite gotten it there yet. And I think when we look at Anthony Edwards being the face of the NBA, I think when all is said and done, his career might parallel on the court. I'm talking about something like a Kyrie Irving, a terrific player, maybe more like a Klay Thompson, a heck of a player, a little better than Klay Thompson, but certainly not a Steph Curry. And I think we elevate Anthony Edwards a little too much because he's charismatic. He's a good interview. He's happy-go-lucky. But he's a little overrated, even though he's a heck of a player.
Happy Saturday, Dennis Cockerman. Good morning, really early morning where you are over in the Sioux Falls, South Dakota area. Yeah, I mean, J Train, what do you think? Is he overrated? I mean, notwithstanding, like I said, let's just focus on him as a ball player. I mean, Jack is right. We don't see the prima donna stuff. At least I haven't seen it. But there has been some questionable comments and some of these post comments that he's made post game with interviewers, et cetera, but not really a prima donna. What are your thoughts?
Sonja, I'm going to have to disagree with Jack slightly. I don't think he's overrated. I think there's two different things here that you can unplug. Being overrated is someone that you're expecting them to not be a scorer or to not be a good defender. And I think he is those things. I think he's those things at the level what a 23-year-old should be at this point in his career. He's been in the league, I think, about 3 or 4 years now, and he's been to 2 conference finals. I think he's slightly overhyped with some of the things that you've seen. Like, okay, you look at him like, okay, that's reminiscent of another player that I've seen, maybe Kobe Bryant, maybe LeBron, not LeBron James, but Michael Jordan. You see some of the attributes that come out, but it does not come out on a consistent level. You don't see it consistently.
Yep.
So he's not overrated. I think he's far more superior at this age at those players that he mentioned in comparison to. It's just that he needs a few more things under his belt. He needs to be able to score better in the mid-range, not rely just on his super human strength, and he needs to take over a game. I don't know if that's in him or not in him, but it seems like it is because of the skill that he has. I mean, I can give you instances of a Michael Jordan in the playoffs against Larry Bird, 63 points. They lost the game, but Michael Jordan exhausted everything that he had on the court. He gave everything he had. LeBron James, they won this series against in route to get to the 2007 finals against Detroit. They were down three. I mean, they were down 3-2, I believe. Yeah, 3-2, and he scored the last 25 points. I'm not saying that he's not in the same skill level as those players. He is, but he's not consistent. He's not taking over games. Even if like this last series, I didn't see 30 plus points a game in losing efforts from him. There are some games where it looks like they stacked up defenses against him. Yes, I saw that. That like 3 or 4 players will come up against him. They want to force him to pass the ball out and make the other guy shoot. But maybe it's coaching. I don't know. But there is an overhype, but it's not overrated because the player is there. I think he's just not consistent. But he's not overrated at all.
I mean, in my opinion, I kind of can see both sides. I think the media and fans have put him to this whole Jordan talk to begin with. He's not putting himself up there. That's the main thing for me that would make him, excuse me, not seem over cocky or anything like that, because you do have some players that put themselves on that type of pedestal. The more humble ones that are, there to play the game and make their own name, those are the ones that are more likable. And therefore, in this instance, people have started to kind of compare him as a young Jordan. He's only 23 years old. He's made a lot of good things for himself already. He's basically been on all NBA selections every time. He's been in multiple of those. 3 times All-Star and 2-time All-NBA second team selection. So he doesn't come in, as a bust, so to speak, or just nowhere near the hype of what people are talking about. But you do mention a lot of things, J Train, that I think about as well. Even though Jack has pointed out a lot of good things that he has as well. He has the physical tools, his durability, he's healthy. I mean, he actually shows up and plays these games. He's been improving in his decision-making skills as far as when to take the shots, et cetera, et cetera. He does still have a very, not long way to go, but a ways to go as far as becoming more elite in his own right. While he is healthy and has physical tools to make these plays, he just has to make better decisions, because all that goes in with his inconsistent plays. We'll see like a flash of him being super good here and a flash of him being super good there. Then all of a sudden, it's like you don't see him. He struggles to be able to fluctuate and move around and make these plays in difficult situations. And then let's not talk about how those decision makers sometimes lead to turnovers. So with that, I guess he'd be more of a, not necessarily in a leader position, but maybe, I don't want to say a ball manager, but he plays well for where he is. He plays exceptionally well, maybe a little bit above average, but I'm just not ready to throw him in with the Jordan talk myself.
You don't throw anyone in with the Jordan talk, Sonja. I mean, come on. I mean, if you want to make a Jordan LeBron comparison, people make that all the time. That's fine. But beyond that, we don't make Jordan comparisons. I mean, how many Kobe Bryant's an all-time great? But if you ask 10 basketball experts who they take, Jordan or Kobe, push comes to shove, odds are all 10 would take Jordan, even though he might just be marginally better than Kobe, and you could argue that it's very close, but it's what it is. We'll see with Anthony Edwards going forward. I mean, he's a heck of a good player, but we're just talking about, is he top 10 in the NBA now? And he probably falls a little outside that range. He's probably about the 15th best player in the NBA, or maybe, anywhere 12 to 15. At this point.
No way.
Wow.
He's in the top 10, Jack.
Wow.
He's in the top 10 easily.
Is he better? You could start naming the teams. Is he better than
I mean,
Luka?
let's not forget. Let's not
Is he
forget.
better than Steph Curry? Is he better than Brunson?
No,
Is
he's
he
not better
than
than
Tatum?
Curry.
Yeah, but
Is he better than
those may be top.
Wembanyama?
Those are top five. I mean,
I
you can
am
give me
naming
10
more
players.
than five. Once I get to 6 or 7, you're going to tell me those are top 5.
Let me say this: he's been to 2 Western Conference Finals in a row, one without Karl Anthony Towns this season.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot. I mean, you can't name me one player that led that team to the finals, but without him. Or
Karl
obviously
Anthony
he's a good player.
Towns to the Eastern Finals without Anthony Edwards, so I can make that
Yeah,
argument.
but you can't make that argument with a Jalen Brunson on that team. And I mean, There's no Jalen Brunson on the Timberwolves team. There's no. I would say no. OG is There's some comparable players to OG on Anunoby.
I like Anthony Edwards. I like him a lot. I like his attitude with the team. He says he's going to work harder than anyone over the summer, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is able to take the next step. I'm just talking about him in current form, but I there's upside to take the next step, and I got whether he'll take it or not remains to be seen.
He's got to do that. That's for sure.
Yeah, so like as I say, the verdict's still out, but it's definitely a hot topic because even Skip Bayless brought that up. So we'll see. We'll see. He's eliminated. He's home for the off season now and can get ready to condition and recuperate for the next season. And who knows, next season he may have even more of a spectacular presence, and we'll be talking about this same thing again, but with more solid facts that he actually is proven to be the elite player that he is. Let's move on to our next NBA related question. This is a blast from the past, but it definitely affects where we are today. Did Michael Jordan did Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan's my mind, and Larry Bird actually save the NBA? That's really a good question because there's a lot of perception. I'm going to start with this one, Jack. Very, very good question. Very historical question. Good morning to you, Rick. He says he agrees with Jack just outside the top 10. Rick, thanks so much for joining us as always.
And if Rick agrees with me, you know I'm on target.
Yeah, Rick is pretty balanced. So I don't know. You might be onto something, Jack, if Rick agrees, because I like Rick. He's super cool. Before this is the thing. Before the Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, the NBA were dealing with a lot of struggles. I mean, a lot of them were racially, how should I say, racially motivated, I guess, racial related at a minimum. People had known that basically they were saying the NBA was too black and associated with a lot of drug problems, which alienated a certain segment of the audience as far as fans and things. Then they had financial difficulties. A lot of the franchises were struggling financially because they were literally thinking about either being on the verge of bankruptcy or relocating. I mean, we've seen teams even in modern days since the Bird Magic time of relocating. My Charlotte Hornets being one during the time I can remember, and now of course they're back. Low TV ratings. People were just not watching the finals. It was just, they would show them like a tape delay, just all types of stuff. In 1981 was a key example. The NBA finals had the lowest ratings in league history at that point. And then if you look at the mainstream appeal, it just was not a mainstream thing for people to be talking about the NBA like they are now. They often competed with major sports like the NFL and the MLB. And when you bring in Magic and you bring in Larry Bird, they had the college rivalry. The epic 1979 NCAA championship game between those two, Michigan State and Indiana State, drew an astonishing 40 million viewers. And it literally to this day is the highest rated basketball game ever. So that's pretty big. So that right there, that game actually set the stage for their professional rivalry. So in my mind, I'm going to say they absolutely did change the NBA for what we have today.
I love how political you are, Sonja. You didn't use the word saved, you used the word changed, okay? Very smart. They helped it change, helped it for the better. Okay, the NBA was going to be fine going forward with or without Magic and Bird, but they came along at the right time and they were a tremendous boost to the NBA. But I don't want to hear the word from anyone else. You didn't use it, Sonia, to your credit. They didn't save the NBA. The NBA would be here today. The playoffs would be going on the same way today if it wasn't for Magic and Bird. Part of it was circumstance. They wound up in the right place, the right situation. Bird was perfect for Boston, and Magic was perfect for LA, personality wise, skin color wise, the whole thing. But had Magic gone to the Boston Celtics, the fan base still would have been solidly behind the Celtics the same way. And had Bird gone to the Lakers, but they wouldn't have been the Showtime Lakers with Bird. They would have been tweaked. And the
Yes.
Celtics would have been different, their whole look with Magic, as opposed to Bird. But they were two storied franchises, the Celtics and the Lakers. Before Bird and Magic got there, they had, I don't want to call it a rivalry because the Celtics always won, but they had that tremendous familiarity, with Jerry West and Elgin Baylor, Wilt Chamberlain, coming up short against Bill Russell, John Havlicek, Sam Jones. They had this awesome competition going on, even though the Celtics always found a way to prevail. And they definitely, Magic and Bird, were incredible for the NBA. Did they mean more to the NBA coming onto the scene than Jordan did? Yeah, you could make that argument. I'll go along with that. But, it's like what Muhammad Ali said when he boxed. He said, boxing's going to be dead. No one's going to be interested in it when I leave, blah, 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 blah. Even though the sport had been going on for decades and decades and decades before anyone ever heard of Ali. And then when Ali left, within the decade, Tyson came along. So if we never had a Muhammad Ali, boxing would have been fine. If we never had a Bird of Magic, the NBA still would have been fine, but they were perfect at the time they came along, and they meant a tremendous amount to the history of the NBA. I'm not selling them short. Don't get me wrong. I just get mad when people use the word that I've heard a lot of times, saving the NBA. They didn't save the darn NBA, Magic and Bird. The NBA would have been fine, even though they meant a tremendous amount to the league. Tremendous, maybe more so than as a duo, they meant more so than any one particular player who came up. They meant more than Jordan later on as a duo, Bird and Magic, I think.
You agree, J Train?
I don't know. Look, the NBA was having problems before this rivalry came, and they were having less viewership. They were having issues with drugs being a big part, people not watching because of that. They were going through the merger with the ABA. A lot of things were going through a change at that time, and so I think that the rivalry did help boost viewership. It helped boost all the issues and get away from the issues. But I don't think they saved it either. I will have to say they didn't save the NBA, but they changed it. They changed how things were done. Adding some of the different players. The different players that came from the ABA, like Julius Erving, George Gervin, different players like that coming over that were like different style players. They were flashy. They dunked. At one point, you couldn't dunk in the NBA.
No.
So things got a little, the 3-point line, the addition of the 3-point line. It got better. It got a lot better. But to me, I'm going to go a little bit different angle here. I don't think the NBA was changed, but it was more revolutionized. And who was it revolutionized by? To me, the NBA has always shown one player to be a face, not two, not a rivalry, but one player. And Michael Jeffrey Jordan was that guy when it really started. Had the NBA had Julius Erving when he first came into the league, I think it would have been the same, because you're looking at the type of player that Julius Erving was. He was sort of flashy. He was cool off the court. He was cool on the court and just a dominant player. But you didn't get to see a lot of it in the ABA because they didn't play a lot of it on screen. A lot of it was by legend and hearsay. But Michael Jordan, when he came into the league out of UNC, you automatically see what's going on. And the NBA automatically say, okay, we got to market this guy. This guy revolutionized how things are done with the NBA, not just the NBA, but sports in general. He got with Nike. Nike was a terrible brand. It was meant for running. It wasn't for basketball shoes. Jordan changed that. Jordan changed that, and everybody wanted Jordans, those shoes. That brought them international. The NBA wasn't international prior to Jordan. It became international. And so he not only he didn't really stay, but he revolutionized it to the point where it never went back to those issues they were having because everybody wanted to be like Mike. I wanted to be like Mike as a kid. I had a pair of Jordans when I was a kid. I went out and bought my own money that I worked for.
Yep.
That's how much
That's how I got
much this guy changed the game. Because I had to work to get those shoes.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, back in 1992, $128 was a heck of a lot more to me on a $4.35 an hour job.
Yes.
You know what? You're shaking your head. I'm just telling you. He changed the game, Jack. He changed it. He changed it to where you're not going to look at it. I mean, he brought a Kobe Bryant behind him as well, became the face of the league as well. A LeBron James that became the face.
Kobe never became the face of the league. Kobe never quite became the face of the league. Not quite. He shared billing with Shaquille O'Neal, kind of, with the Lakers.
I would say he did, but he came into his own at that point when, the 08, that time. LeBron was the face during that time. LeBron was the face during that time.
Yeah. LeBron still is in certain ways the face. James, I mean, I got to investigate because that's not what I heard. You're getting the Jordans. I mean, I heard you got the Starberries.
Yes. Ask her for
$14, right?
Yeah. How much did those
go? You got the
Starberries. You spent
$14. They were $14.
Wait, so you spent $124 for Jordans and
listen. Me too, Jack. I was a tomboy, and I remember working where I was working. I had got a work permit when I was 14. I always worked at this grocery store all the way out. I always had a job, and that was the first thing I did. I went and got the boy versions because I wanted to make sure they looked as close because I felt like the girls were not. They wanted to try to. They just were different. So I remember, and literally my grandmother and my dad were like, if you want those, you will work for those. We are not buying those. That's light bill money. That's light bill money where I come from. And it was. I mean, I was reared by my grandparents and my father. So it really was. Times were hard. And so they couldn't believe I did it. But that's what I wanted. They were like, you could have used that money for, a bill. But I mean, I'm a kid. It's 92. We're juniors in high school. James and I are the same age. I totally, literally, as he was saying that, I'm like, yes, that's me. That's me. But they revolutionized it. Jordan and Bird revolutionized and laid the groundwork for the deals we see today, the NILs, everything like that all traipses back. So it's so much more
than the NILs. That's you're stretching too far back. That doesn't.
I don't know.
That had nothing to do with the Jordans at all.
Everybody started paying attention to athletes after Jordan got this big deal with Nike.
No, I mean, it was a shoe thing that was going on, but that's so long ago with the Jordan shoe deal and the NIL.
It pivoted to where we are today. Look at Gatorade. Look at Power.
Right, and Abe Lincoln.
I think Sonja probably means endorsement.
I can make something up like that.
They all that to me was the beginning of it for other endorsements.
For sure, I agree with the endorsement for sure.
Look, there were tons of endorsements athletes were doing before Jordan.
But look at the money behind it.
The amount of money that came.
Yeah, the money behind it was like
that Jordan got, and then many years later, some other athletes would cash in with good shoe deals. But they're rare even today, where athletes make a fortune on these shoe deals.
Good morning, one ass cheek, three toes. Good morning, UB. Good morning, distinguished panel, and good morning to Paul. He says, especially Sonja. Thank you, Paul. I'm so glad to see you guys both on here. I don't know, Jack. You just didn't have any Jordans, and it's okay. You didn't.
I mean, I consider getting one of those shoes that, where you pump it up, where you could jump higher.
Those were oh my God, when they came out with
Reebok.
Yes. But even the Nike came out with the pump up button because I had some in college. They had the and I mean you really couldn't feel a difference, but I swore you could.
I shouldn't say this. You know what I recently did to end the topic, okay? And I recently did this. My son-in-law, he's in medical school, but he played college ball and he plays in a league still. He finds the time to play in a league, and he was talking to me about the old timers. Maybe they couldn't quite keep up with the modern guys. You know what I did? I bought him a pair of Chuck Taylors. The time that what the old timers used to wear, and I'm insisted he wears them when he plays a couple of games, and he's going to see what it's all about. To run up and down the court and start jumping.
Those things make your ankles hurt. Those things.
Oh well, that's all the old times. Those were the elite shoes at the time. Those were the shoes.
I had some
Chucks. Have a taste of what everyone used to wear. And those were the best shoes at the time.
I had some Chucks too. I got them at the Converse outlet, as a matter of fact. The Converse plant is there in it was there in Lumberton, North Carolina, and we had some people in my family that worked there, and so we would go and be able to get their little employee discount at the Converse store. Those Chuck Taylors, they bothered the back of my ankles. Like they were cute, but they did something to the Achilles area. I don't know. I didn't like them. All right, let's move on. Definitely a great question segment there. These are awesome questions, Jack. Very, very good. Let's move on to some football questions because I do want to get this one in, and then we have one more. Hopefully, we can squeeze it in. Are the Steelers? Because I'm gonna tell you, I'm almost like throwing up in the back of my throat right now just reading this question. Are the Steelers doing the correct thing by waiting for Aaron Rodgers to decide if he wants to join their team, join their team?
I just want to add in a quick thing. I saw a Netflix documentary yesterday on Brett Favre, because you're talking about a former Packer quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Watching this documentary, you can't come away but thinking that Brett Favre, what a sleazy guy. Totally sleazy guy, and based on this Netflix documentary I saw, and I'm going to leave it at that, But are the Steelers making a mistake waiting on Aaron Rodgers? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to tell you why no. Because their quarterback situation is addressed. They have a backup plan. If you don't have a backup plan, then it's a mistake. Look, they have Mason Rudolph. It seems like he was born a Steeler when they drafted him in the 3rd round. He's been there a lot of years. He went to Tennessee 1 year. He knows how to run a Mike Tomlin offense. He knows how to manage a game. And they drafted Will Howard from the national champion Ohio State, Buckeyes, and as a quarterback, possibly in the future, possibly just a developmental project. We don't know. So they can afford to kind of wait it out on Aaron Rodgers. They have nothing to lose. If they force the issue and they said, give us a decision now, where does that leave them if Rodgers says no and they end it with Rodgers? There's nowhere else to really turn. Are they interested in Carson Wentz? And don't mention Kirk Cousins' name, because please, I don't want to hear about it. Don't mention Kirk Cousins' name because he has absolutely nothing left. And maybe Rodgers doesn't have anything left himself. We'll see. But they can afford to wait on Aaron Rodgers. That's the point I'm saying. It is distasteful as you might find it.
I'll let J Train go ahead first.
I think they are making a mistake waiting on him. I understand what you're saying. That's the logical way to think about it in regards to the quarterback room that they have right now. But Aaron Rodgers is the problem. And I think the Steelers put themselves in this position to have to wait, not making a position to where they didn't grab a quarterback, either in the 1st round or the draft, or they didn't take a quarterback in the free agency. You just made the mistake of saying, okay, we're going to depend on Rodgers and figure out when he's going to come. He may absolutely come there, but I just think that you're putting yourself in a position. You let one of your receivers go, who probably was a bit of a malcontent, but you don't have a receiver room that's like outside of DK Metcalf. You don't have a receiver room that seems to be like set up for a quarterback to come in and be successful. So I just think they might be in a bit of a not a midlife crisis here, but they might be having an issue where they're looking to say, you know what, it might be time for us to rebuild. It might be time for us to. We have a few players here, on our defense. We got rid of our running back. We didn't really replace him. Maybe we're trying to revamp to say we're going in the direction of that. We might be rebuilding it. It might be a slight rebuild here. And I just think that Rodgers is just going to bring more of a headache, and you're waiting on him. They're waiting on him for sure. I see that, but you don't know for sure if he's coming, and if he comes, what is he going to bring to the table when he gets there? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I just think that they probably shouldn't have waited on him. Considering that you're not really putting him in the best position to be successful. Not
Shane, but the point is, you look at alternatives. They could stay pat, and they did make 2 off-season moves. They re-signed Mason Rudolph again as a free agent from Tennessee, okay? And they did, like I said before, they did draft the quarterback in Will Howard. Whether he was the right guy to draft, that's debatable. But in their current state, what else are they going to do? That's the point I'm trying to make. And we don't know whether Rodgers is going to be a malcontent. I mean, that's the perception on the outside. I'll say this. I don't hear his Jet teammates and former Jet coaches criticizing Rodgers now that he's left. That might be revealing in a sense. You don't hear people bad-mouthing. I mean, he would be a prime candidate to get bad-mouthed now that he's out of the building. We haven't heard it. So he maybe did fit in. He just didn't perform.
I'm not going to say that. Good morning, Miss Linda. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Paul is like, didn't Rodgers retire yesterday? Brent said he agrees with J Train. Settle the issue now and move on. Paul said his wife told him that he retired on YouTube. No, it's fake, Paul. He didn't retire, but he did talk about possibly retiring as a Packer. Let me tell you, Jack. Let me plug in 2 things. First of all, the Steelers, I have lost all respect for that organization because of this whole situation with Aaron Rodgers. But this is what he does. He goes in, he tanks the overall morale, he brings down the brands, everything. He is not the same Aaron Rodgers he was in Green Bay. And you mentioned that the Jets are not saying anything negative about him, but Green Bay is. Green Bay is. Just give it some time. You got to remember how the Jets got Rodgers up out of there. He flew them all the way. They flew him all the way into the office so they could look at him face to face, not over Teams, not over Zoom, none of that. And he even came out and was like, hey, they could have called me on the phone and told me this. They dismissed him, like literally in high fashion. That lets you know they have nothing for him. The fact that he has been allowed to string along the Steelers from the time he has vacated the Jets locker room is sickening and appalling for an organization such as the Steelers, who are longtime, tried, true Super Bowl champions, respected in the league, to allow this pansy of a quarterback, this diva, honestly, to continue to string them along. But like Jay Train said, they put themselves in this position. That's the most irritating part. It would be okay to me if they had their solid go-getter. They got their receiver, got rid of him, sent him down to Dallas because he was, an emotional roller coaster, what have you. Aaron Rodgers is just the more calculated emotional roller coaster. He's just as toxic. The Steelers got on every headline. Every week you're seeing something about them, how they are hoping, looking like, anytime you see CBS Sports say the Steelers are hoping, that's a term of like need, necessity, begging almost. Like you're at Aaron Rodgers' bequeath. You're not the one that's making the shots or anything. You're hoping like, okay, we hope today is the day that he finally calls us or emails us and says, yeah, I'm coming. Now it looks like he may not even be signing until July. And I'm going to say at this point right now, like Paul is saying, he has been a very bad, and we don't like to use the word C word, but right. he's a waste of talent at this point because his personality has overwhelmed everything that is going on with him. He's sickening, and I'm sick of it. I wish he would just retire and go sit down and Joe Flacco it. Like, get calls when you're needed and the end. Be a floating quarterback like you have floating secretaries and these professionals, and be done with it. And just wait, Jack. The words are coming out from the Jets about him because there's no way he was missing practices and over sniffing mushrooms while the rest of the team was gathering to get themselves together for the season. Thank you, Brent.
I'm not going to really comment on it because Rodgers never. I do have to comment on it. I should say briefly. Rodgers never made any promises to the Steelers about going there. So, how can you criticize him? He never said it. They're courting Rodgers, and he's not sure what he wants to do. How can you criticize a guy? He's not sure that he wants to make a commitment to go there. It's not on him. If you want to criticize the Steelers, go ahead. Rodgers never made any promises to Pittsburgh, so don't hold him accountable. He didn't lie to them. He's not sure what he wants to do. That's part of life. He's not sure whether he wants to take that job. Let the Steelers move on from him then. They don't want to criticize the Steelers, not Rodgers here.
Yeah, you're right, Paula. I don't know. We got about 3 minutes left. J Train, did you have any comeback on this one before we move to the last question?
I don't think we have time for the last question.
It's gonna be real quick.
No, we're good. Sorry.
Okay. Yep. All right. The last question is: should players be criticized? We literally got about 3 minutes. We can squeeze it in, Jack. Should players be criticized if they refuse to give their autograph to fans? I don't know. It depends on where they are, I guess. If you're like in this person's face in a personal setting, but if you're out and about, this kind of comes with the territory. That's my thing. But I don't know about criticize. I would frown upon it. I don't know if I'd like bash them on social media or make them look like the worst person in the world as an athlete.
Well, very quickly, I think they shouldn't feel any obligation at all because people sell these things. If you sign a jersey, let's say someone sees Ohtani, Aaron Judge, and they give him a jersey, ask him to sign it, and they sign their name. You know what they could sell that for?
Oof.
That's why athletes like to personalize things, make it out to someone in particular. And I think in this day and age, selfies are better than any autograph.
Yeah.
I think you should criticize a little bit because it's the brand, particularly if it's with children. They're looking at you. These are people that want to be like you. We mentioned earlier, wanted to be like Mike. And Mike was definitely one who wouldn't sign an autograph for sure. Yeah. But I just, I think that it's a part of the game. It's a part of the tradition. These people are your viewers. These people are your fans. These are people who they don't make you necessarily, but they're a part of that. And to just not give any autographs at all, I think that should be criticized to some degree because it's a part of it's what comes with the game. It's just what it is. Especially with the little ones, with children in particular, to cut them off. What are you telling them? What are you telling people how they should be treated? That's what they say when you go to Hollywood. You don't want to meet the people you look up to because you're going to be disappointed. I would definitely be disappointed. If I'm a child coming up to someone wanting to get an autograph. I did it at a concert. I met Will Smith. He was kind of standoffish and he didn't want to, but Jazzy Jeff gave me his autograph and talked to me like a person. I get it. Look, you're human. There's times when you don't want to be bothered, and I get it. That I can see that's just those one-off times. But for the most part, you should not be just cutting people off, cutting kids off, and not all giving autographs. That's just a part of the game. So yes, I would criticize.
Like Rick says, he met Peyton Manning, got a picture with his kids, but no autograph. Maybe pictures are a little different, but this is my as we get ready to close out. If you basically are not given an autograph, you'd be just as appalled if nobody asked who you were or anything like that. They would be offended. So that's definitely a good question. It's definitely going to be one of those human elements that people are definitely going to criticize it at the end of the day because, hey, we helped you get here. We're your fans, basically, no matter what. Jack, J Train, great show as always. Join us tomorrow morning for the Sunday morning sports show, 8 a.m. Shows throughout the Roku network throughout today and the weekend. Wish everybody this great final weekend of May 2025, a good one. And with that, we'll bid you all good day.